Thanks for staying with us on the program. Now, let's talk about the recent threat by the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, the IPMAN, to stop their services due to non-payment of bridging claims in the Southeast region and some of the South-South as well as the Middle Belt regions of the country, which has sparked fear and concern among the people. Now, fuel scarcity in Nigeria is not a new issue, and the potential of facing it once again has left many people feeling very unsettled because, it's needless to say how hard it was the last time. The effects of such a situation are far-reaching, impacting not only the transportation and the energy sectors now, but also the daily lives of individuals who rely on fuel for their livelihoods. The group gave the notice in a statement that was signed by Prince Bobby Eberichi, the zonal chairman, and Emmanuel Iningba, the zonal secretary. The looming threat of fuel scarcity raises important questions about the state of the petroleum industry in Nigeria and the government's ability to address the concerns of key stakeholders, which we will be addressing in a bit. So joining us to have this conversation, first, I'm joined by Peter Okediya, an analyst, Fortrose Consulting, Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you so much, Peter, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Also, we have Ukadike Chinedu, National Public Relations Officer, IPMAN in Abuja. Thank you so much, Mr. Chinedu, for joining us as well.
Yeah, thank you, and good afternoon, Nigerians.
All right, gentlemen, now let's talk about the issue at hand. I'm going to start with you, Peter. What would we say are the root causes of the non-payment of the bridging claims to the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association, especially in these regions that were mentioned? Why were some regions, their colleagues paid and they have not?
Thank you very much. If we take a broad look at the situation, we would realize that this issue is a perennial issue between the marketers and the federal government over the years 2021, 2022, 2023. It has been happening that way with different resolution mechanisms that were used to intervene. But this time, it is very peculiar to the eastern zone, that is the eastern branch of the Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria. Now, looking at the context of bridging claims arise from payments made to marketers to offset the transportation costs involved in distributing fuel around the country. So the notice, according to the notice published by the marketers a few days ago, their threat is hinged on three causes or three precedents. First, the fact that they haven't been paid these bridging claims since, and then the fact that their northern colleagues, that is the northern zone of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, has been paid theirs. They also allege that the NMDPRA, that is the authority regulating the downstream sector, has refused to respond to their several letters. Now, if we look at these three, if we consider these three main pillars of their claim, we'll see that it is an inherent issue that affects the economic sector of the petroleum industry, their businesses, and the citizens at large. Because whatever affects their access to the gains and the bridging claims means that, okay, their businesses will be affected. And when their businesses are affected, that will reflect on the price of fuel in the country. And when their businesses are affected also, it will also reflect on how they operate their business, because they're not able to afford the cost of transporting fuel around the country anymore. So this, I think, according to their notice, are the root causes of their claims.
All right, thank you, Peter, for that. And that's basically what the public has been made to understand. But let me come to you, Mr. Chinedu, as the National Public Relations Officer. Is that an accurate summary? Because, like I said, that's what we understand, from the general news that we've heard and we've been following so far. But is that the accurate summary, or is there something else to it?
Well, thank you for this question. It's not as simple as it's been narrated by my brother, but although he came in from a very, very analytical point of view. The issue of bridging claims we have a lot of backlogs from successive regime. You can also bear with me that during Jonathan regime, We also have the issue of bridging claims, unpaid bridging claims, both from the north and from the southeast, and even from the middle belt. That issue has been there. And PEF, Petroleum Equalization Fund, who is saddled with that opportunity, with responsibility to do that, on their way trying to automate all the bridging claims in Nigeria by introducing Aquila. And marketers were quick to embrace such policy, thinking that it will be more effective than the former capturing at the depot they used to do before. But still, the Aquila also ran into the issue of backlogs. So by the time Mr. President made that announcement that deregulation and subsidy is here, and the institutions that are owing marketers backlog were scrapped, because that was what is provided in the petroleum bill. Those institutions were scrapped. The Petroleum Equalization Fund, who is holding the funds of marketers whose money are still in their pocket, were scrapped. So the marketers who have backlogs of money, like 6 months, 3 months, could not be able to access it. And the thing is, they're able to get into a year. They will be able to access those amount of money. And that is why some concerned members in the northern zone were able to also do this kind of thing, those in the southeast and south have just done now. Some months ago, and that were led by the elders, the northern elders of IPMAN, to cry to federal government to see how they can be able to pay their bridging distance. But I also thought as a Nigerian that this thing would have been handled holistically, instead of selecting some, paying some and leaving some. And that is why you see the eastern marketers and some of the concerned marketers in the middle belt and the south side, we have also come around together to also say, please, what is good for the goods is also good for the tender. Pay us our money so that we can be able to furnish our trucks. Most of our trucks have died because of bad roads. The issue of diesel is nothing to write home about. You cannot move a truck now from Lagos to Port Harcourt without spending close to 2.something million naira, knowing fully well that it is the coastal areas in Nigeria that you can be able to get petroleum products. The refineries are gone, the pipelines are gone, all the 21 depots are gone. So what are we talking about? It is a very, very, I don't understand. I want to use an adjective that is chronic. This issue is kind of a chronic disease in the oil and gas distribution chain. So the Petroleum Equalization Fund, which equalizes petroleum products in the whole country, no matter whatever is your fare of transporting petroleum products, that is where you can go and redeem those excesses so that to enable you sell petroleum products in line with government regulation. But now that subsidy has been removed, there's not like price tag any longer. We'll do speculation from some amount to some amount, building in transportation into it. Because for you to move trucks now, you spend close to 2 million naira or 2.5 million naira from Lagos to Kano or from Lagos to Port Harcourt, because that's where the mother vessels normally used to berth before the daughter vessels can be able to take it to this other coastal area. So it is a pertinent that we does not have an energy bank as far as the independent marketers is concerned, where we can be able to fall back to borrow money seamlessly and continue our business. Most of our filling stations have closed, and the workers being laid off just because of the high intensive force that is required to buy a 45,000 liters of petroleum product, which we normally buy at 8.1 million naira. We are now buying at almost 27 to 28 million naira. Sometimes when your trucks leave to go and load, you will have high BP until the driver comes back. So this is the kind of situations we independent marketers are facing right now. And it is also pertinent that we will ensure that the federal government comes into this and see how you can be able to intervene.
All right.
If the regulation is not working, you have to be right. The regulation is not working.
Okay, I wanted to quickly follow up on what you just said about the federal government intervening. And speaking of federal government intervention, has there been any response, Mr. Chinedu, regarding this imminent threat of fuel scarcity? Has there been anything from the federal government or the relevant authorities, to this case?
Well, I also know that our leadership has not been contacted Because if they are contacted as a spokesperson of the association, I will also be informed that we have been contacted. They will not be contacted. Rather, we are having incessant complaints and phone calls from our marketers who millions of naira has been owned and who the banks are now threatening to sell their properties.
Okay. Now, Peter, from your own analysis, how would you say that the potential fuel scarcity, if it happens again, will affect the daily lives of the citizens in these regions and, of course, generally, because I don't think that it's just going to affect these regions alone. It's going to affect the entire country. So in what ways would you say that it would affect, the country, bearing in mind, the current economic challenges that we're facing as a nation?
Thank you very much for that question. The effect of this threat or the implementation of this threat is not far-fetched because, as we have seen over the years, also when it's during the December or November period, during the end of the year, we see fuel scarcity arising, and it's not a new thing. But the incident happening now is occurring in a new circumstance, in the sense that fuel prices are unusually higher than they used to be. So what happens is that when there's fuel scarcity now, the price gets more expensive even than the normal rate that we are buying it now, because the marketers are not able to transport or distribute their petroleum products effectively. Also, we can see the effects in the prices of goods and services during the ember periods, especially during December, because prices of goods are usually expensive during that time, normally. Now that the fuel scarcity, the usual implication is that the prices would be above reasonable levels. And we can only call on the government to intervene. There's a short-term solution and there's a long-term solution. The short-term solution is what Mr. Chinedu has properly accentuated, and intervention is very necessary. But the long-term solution is in the Petroleum Industry Act itself. It's in the Petroleum Industry Act itself, because the removal of subsidy presupposes that there will be a deregulation of the petroleum sector according to Section 205 of the Petroleum Industry Act. Furthermore, it also presupposes that the authority would establish pricing framework and tariff for petroleum products. Till this day, the authority, that is the NMDPRA, hasn't published any pricing framework for petroleum products, so which leaves the marketers in a void, in a regulatory void, and that is why we still need the bridging claims. So if these things are put in place, subsidy removal doesn't work in isolation. The measures must be put in place to ensure that there's a smooth transition, and the CIA provides for that smooth transition. So if this long-term solution are implemented and put in place, that is the publication of the pricing frameworks for petroleum products, then the marketers can actually operate effectively and efficiently, and then fuel distribution in Nigeria would be effective also. So we can prevent the economic backlash that could come forth from the threat. So an intervention is necessary in the short term first, then in the long term, a full implementation of the PIA is very imperative. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that, Peter. Now, back to you, Mr. Chinedu. Would we say that this is a recurring issue? Is there like a pattern, of not getting, these claims that they're fighting for or asking for, or is this a first time or a one-time thing?
I say it is chronic. That is the adjective I will use for this. I say it is chronic. Why I say it is chronic is that it has been recurring year upon year, year past year. So it is not something that is new. It's not new. There was even a time during Gerada regime that we have to withdraw services to be able to get attention so that the federal government can be able to pay us this money. But this time around, marketers are trying to be very limited enough because they know the suffering of the masses if they withdraw services. They know the suffering of the masses if they withdraw services. So they don't want to go through that route. But rather, they want to use this opportunity to be able to appeal to federal government to pay us our money. This is money we borrow from the banks. This is money, some of our capitals. If we don't have this money, we can't continue this business. It is also has impeded distribution. Even part of what is causing this scarcity today is some of this money are with the federal government. If the federal government can be able to release this money, most marketers will come to Lagos, Apapa, Warri, Ogara, and Port Harcourt, River State, to be able to buy the petroleum product and take it to their destinations. You see, the issue of PAB being implemented or not, if the refineries are not working, and marketers can be able to go within their TDZ to be able to buy petroleum products with no less than 150 kilometers or 50 kilometers to their filling station, it's very, very essential. It will reduce the price of petroleum product. Now, the federal government has lost all the pipeline that make for efficient distribution of petroleum products. Since we have got the pipeline, the vehicles suffer, the wear and tear of the vehicles suffer, the businessmen suffer, the roads also suffer. So that is why you see people calling for the maintenance of the roads. Some of our drivers will stay 4 or 5 weeks just to go and bring one petroleum product. By the time it comes back, it becomes a scarce commodity because the one that have been selling has been finished. So that is the most important thing that federal government need to intervene to ensure that most of these marketers.
Mr. Chinedu, are you there? All right, I think we lost this audio for a bit. Mr. Chinedu, can you hear us? All right, while we wait for his audio to restore, Peter, let me come back to you. In your own opinion, do you foresee that there will be a resolution to this, or do you think that we are at a high, there's a high percent or high chance that we're going to have the fuel scarcity, issue very soon?
Thank you very much. So if you, according to the notice, the petroleum marketers claim that they allege that they've sent letters to the NMDPRA several without any response. So this implies a communication gap between the marketers and the federal government and the regulatory authorities also. Now, this communication gap shouldn't exist in the first instance. If there needs to be a resolution, the communication gap between players in the industry must be closed first, because with proper communication, this could have been avoided. Even the notice could have been avoided with proper communication. If the authority had responded to the letters of the NMDPRA, if that were true, it could have been avoided, but things can still be resolved in the sense that normally it is bad optics for the NMDPRA. Their refusal to respond or react to non-payment of the breaching claims. So if they consider the business operation, the business cost of operating marketing companies and distributing fuel around the country, the downstream authority should intervene by communicating clearly, okay, this is the reason why you haven't been paid your breaching claims, and this is how we are addressing it. They are not meant to leave the marketers in a void and expecting that they would just sit down there and wait for their intentions or communications. The marketers also would react. So with with efficient communication between the marketers and the authority, things could be resolved. Also, in the long term, I think this situation emphasizes the fact that we have to diversify the means of distributing fuel across the country. Drugs incur so much cost, the distribution by cost incurs so much cost that will make it more expensive for consumers. So providing an efficient rail infrastructure and secure pipeline system that distributes fuel across the country will provide more flexibility and more efficiency to the distribution of fuel, and then the control of the supply of fuel and the price of fuel also. So we won't be experiencing fuel scarcity every now and then. So a resolution is possible if the communication gap between the parties are closed and resolved, because problems would always arise. It is the system or we put in place to address the problem that would matter most.
All right, thank you very much for that. Finally, Mr. Chinedu, and very quickly, now you did mention that the movement of fuel from one station to another can be a Herculean task, right? I know that this might be a tall order, but do you think that there is any other alternative, means of transportation to reduce the cost of transporting fuel to other places or stations in the nation?
Yeah, the number one is the pipeline. The pipeline is the safest and the fastest way of transportation petroleum product from one point to another. The way Nigeria was designed, the pipeline, of course, that works around all the depots and all the pump stations. Then the second one is the railway. Now that our railways are working some other places, it's also for Nigeria to the federal government to ensure that some of these our railways move straight to some of the seaports and also coastal depots. Once that one is done, product can move from that coastal area to a dry area, whereby petroleum products can be distributed from the point of receive to point of dispensing. So if we can be able to do that, I know I can't talk about air because even our air system, our airplane system is bad. So let us look at railway. Also, let us look at our pipelines. Once this thing is done, you will find out that seamlessly petroleum products will be at your doorstep at a very, very minimal cost. And the issue of profiteering will also be wiped away. And
Mr. Chinedu's audio again, but I just want to take this time to say thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much, Peter Okediya, Analyst, Fortrose Consulting, Lagos, Nigeria. And of course, thank you so much to Ukadike Chinedu, National Public Relations Officer, IPMAN in Abuja. Thank you for joining us on the program.